in myself. I spent 9 years here, not as a student, although some people would say it would take me 9 years to finish high school. My name is Eric Bolton. I'm the superintendent of this district, and I was the principal here from 2002 to 2009. Part of my job, just so you know, is the best way to describe it is I'm the principal's principal. Every 2 years, pandemic excluded, I get to experience one of the best days of any year. And that is when I get to take 3 graduates of distinction from our district: Liberty, Heritage, and of course Freedom. They graduated 10 years ago. They are nominated by community members, teachers. A committee meets, and this year, our committee selected Chris Calabresi, who has done some exceptional things in education, and we'll hear more about him. Alicia Kennan, an award-winning attorney, and Freedom High graduate of 2005. Don't mind to take your seats. I'll start off with our first graduate of distinction. So if we get to the next slide. Okay, well, there are the names. Oh, we're going to start off with Alicia. Okay, awesome. Liberty High School class of 98. That may seem a long time ago, but this is our youngster of the group. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Alicia went to Villanova. She then went to University of Pacific, where she went to business school, and also, she earned her bachelor's at UOP, and then went to McGeorge School of Law to get her Juris Doctorate at UOP in Stockton, about a half hour east of here. Okay. You can see her favorite shows in 1998 were Seinfeld, Cheers, and Full House. That was a no. And then the hottest song was Hold On by Wilson Phillips. Okay? Her philosophy is there is no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. That's her philosophy. Be the person you would want somebody to be for you, is her personal motto. And I think that was the last slide. Okay, that is the last slide. So I introduced to you Alicia Kennan, Liberty High School class of 1998.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy school schedules to listen to the 3 of us talk about ourselves and our paths from our high schools and growing up here in Oakley and Brentwood, Bethel Island, to where we are today. First, I want to say thank you to Superintendent Volta, Mrs. Foster, and the members of the selection committee for choosing me as the LUHSD Graduate of Distinction. I am honored by this recognition and look forward to sharing my story with you and the other students in the district that we're going to visit today. As has already been mentioned, I'm a proud graduate of the Liberty Union High School class of 1998. It was the only high school in the district when I started in 1994 as a freshman. I had come from my teeny tiny Catholic school in Antioch. I went to Holy Rosary and started at Liberty, where there were over 900 students in my incoming freshman class. And I knew a grand total of 2 people at the whole school, one of whom was a teacher and one who had gone to Holy Rosary with me. So talk about going from a very small pond to what felt like an absolutely huge ocean. Despite being very social, very outgoing, a perpetual class talker with my name on the board, I was nervous about starting in a big school like that and not knowing anybody. In retrospect, when I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you guys about today, it sort of became a recurring theme for me as I made my way through my educational and professional career. So I have to sort of extend some thank you to the district, to my fellow classmates at Liberty during those years, and certainly my teachers for not only presenting me with that challenge, but also guiding me through it as well. For me, the path from where you're sitting today to where I'm standing and sitting now was very direct. I knew from the first grade that I wanted to be an attorney. My mom literally has one of those all about me posters where you write down what you want to be when you grow up. And I wrote on mine lawyer. I don't know what 6-year-old knows what a lawyer is. I don't think I knew what it was, but I made that decision back in 1986 and almost never looked back. From that point forward, each step that I took in high school was to get into a good college. In college was to get into law school. In law school was to get to pass the bar, which I did, and will say, this is my own humble brag, but the California bar is the hardest bar exam in the country. Less than 40% of people pass it on the first try, and I passed it on the first try at 24 years old. Then I joined a law firm, and I worked my way up to be the youngest equity partner in an over 400 attorney law firm that has 30 offices nationally. The picture that was up there on the screen was from a case that I represented a client about 5 years ago, and it was a very tragic case. Certainly was very, very sad, but in terms of my career, it was a career-making case for me. I got to go to Ireland to take depositions and do international law and really kind of make my mark in my profession. There are days that, you know, like anybody, it's tough. School's hard. I was the first person in my family to go to college, so I didn't really know what college was. I mean, I saw it on TV, but I didn't have anybody in my family that I could go to and say, well, hey, how do I get into college, or what's a good college for me to go to? So fortunately, I had friends and teachers and career counselors at the district that kind of helped me along the way when I had questions and could answer those questions for me. I was excited and nervous when I got dropped off at the dorms that first year. Kind of like Liberty, I was going from, you know, where I'd become pretty popular and knew everybody and was a good student and very well liked and knew all the teachers, to back on a campus again, knowing like 1 or 2 other people on the entire campus. And, you know, once again, I persevered. I made friends quickly. I managed to squeeze in some classes and eke out a bachelor's degree in between my very active social life. And also managed to get into law school, which had been a goal of mine for, at that point, almost 18 years. I started law school shortly after the movie Legally Blonde came out, if you've seen that. And although I was not blonde at the time, I have been in recent other years, I literally moved out of my sorority house that I lived in with 100 of my closest friends, a personal chef, we had hashers, which were just fraternity boys that did our dishes and hung out with us, and a housekeeper to this little dingy apartment in Sacramento all by myself, where I didn't have any friends. And was, again, pretty young, starting law school at 22, and the average age of my classmates was like 28, which when you're 22 and someone's 28, it's like they might as well be 100, right? You probably think that I might as well be 100, even though I'm not that old up here. And there were a lot of people who had preconceived notions about whether I should be there or whether I could be there because of the choices that I had made in college. I was in a sorority, I was, you know, vapid, I only liked to party, I wanted to drink and go out and have fun. I wasn't smart enough or dedicated enough to be an attorney. And my confidence really went into the toilet that first semester, and I was so close to quitting. I came home for Christmas break after that first semester, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go back. This is too hard, I don't think I can do it. I'll just do something else. I have my bachelor's degree, I'll find some kind of different job. And literally until the day that I went back that first day of the spring semester in January, I wasn't sure that I was gonna stick it out for another 2.5 years. But once again, I persevered, I pushed my way through, I found myself again, I found the things that made me happy, I found a group of friends and mentors that helped guide me along the way, and I found that I could do it. And then, as I said already, I took the bar, passed the bar, got a job, doing what I always said I would, which was be a lawyer. I still don't think I knew what it meant. Some days I don't know what it means. I think I just talk on the phone a lot and argue with people and tell other people what to do. Seems pretty good. Get a paycheck a couple times a month. But again, I was faced with being this young, 25-year-old attorney going out into litigation, which is what I do, which is a very male-dominated and 50 years and older male-dominated profession, and I'm this young 25-year-old attorney walking in, and people think that I'm the receptionist or the secretary or the court reporter. And while there's nothing wrong with any of those professions, they're all very admirable and noble, there was a stereotype that, geez, this young person couldn't possibly be an attorney, just like this young sorority girl couldn't possibly do well in this law school. And this little girl from the small Catholic school that doesn't know anyone couldn't possibly be successful at this huge high school. But again, I worked my way up to the top tier of my profession. I've received numerous commendations for my work, and the biggest compliment of all of that is I was promoted to partner, which in the tier of law firms, that's the principal's principal, at the top there, and I'm the youngest partner in my law firm. And there are 70 partners, and even within the ranks of partner, I'm in the top 20 of the partners in my law firm. So, it's definitely been a path, and I think that, there are many paths and many choices that we all have and will continue to be presented with as we navigate through our lives. And as you'll hear from my fellow graduates of distinction, there are diversity of experiences with all of us, and there will be diversity of experiences for each of you. Just because this was my path and this is what made sense for me, I'm not here to tell you that that's the only path, but I want you to know that if you're sitting in this audience thinking, geez, I don't know if I can be a lawyer or be a doctor or be an engineer or be a teacher, you can. You just have to make the choice to do so. When you leave here today, I hope that you leave feeling that you can do anything you set your mind to, and with the right choices and some guidance from trusted family, friends, and teachers right here in this community, you don't have to go looking for it elsewhere, you will be able to fulfill your dreams just as I did.
Okay, we'll get to our next graduate, Colby Smith, Freedom High School class. Actually, the class of '98 was the first class. Colby was 2005. Do you want me to add 6 years to your age? I want to get the record straight. You can see Colby right there in his job, working professionally as a makeup artist. He went to Fashion Institute Design down in LA for 4 years. Was that a picture of you in college? Or is that just that's recent? Okay. Okay. He is a global makeup artist. Popular TV shows when he was in school was Seinfeld, Will and Grace, and A Different World. If you can go back a little bit.
I get it.
Okay. And then his hottest song was My Heart Will Go On by Celine. It still is his favorite song. His personal philosophy, follow whatever path makes you happy. It's probably not the easy one that's already carved out for you. That's from Britney Spears. That's his philosophy.
It wasn't. Britney's quote was, stronger than yesterday, it's nothing but my way.
Oh, there it is. Stronger than yesterday. There's Britney's quote right there. His favorite.
There it is. That's the quote I live by.
Well, you know what? I can't. I was principal when Colby was here. I can't outdo him. So, ladies and gentlemen, Colby Smith.
Well, this is exciting. This did not exist when I went to school here. We had a gymnasium with a stage. So this is like super fancy and awesome. And thank you guys for coming. just to listen to us talk about ourselves is kind of an amazing thing for us. So when I got informed that I was getting the award of Graduate of Distinction, I was not only honored, but also thinking, Mr. Volta, why me? I was that annoying kid who came to your office every single morning, did the morning announcements, like, good morning, Freedom High School, every single morning. And I was like, why me, honestly? So I got to thinking, what qualifies me for this award? And because currently I run around the world and just do glitter and makeup on celebrities, I'm like, what is that? But thinking about it as I was going through it, that wasn't always my journey. So that wasn't always my journey, and that wasn't the case. So as a graduate of Freedom here in 2005, I kind of get what it was like being in a smaller town, where the sight of a dream can be like out of reach, and for me, like definitely out of budget. And not to mention, kids can be bullies and kids can be mean, and I wasn't ready to just take that hand that I was dealt and just live with it. I grew up on a big cattle ranch before I came here to the big city, which I thought was, and it still is not a big city, but it had paved roads and I did not grow up with those, so this was very exciting for me. And I was determined to join every club, every activity, because I didn't have that opportunity at my middle schools and things like that. And I was lucky enough to find the leadership teacher, Miss J, who swooped me up freshman year. My big eyes and eager attitude, and she encouraged me to audition, try out for leadership, and that opened a floodgate for me. And you know that saying, where do you see yourself in 10 years? If someone was like, will you be in New York City? After that first year of leadership, I would be like, yeah, done. So, and you know, of course I was the odd one, I was the gay kid in school, and I was always like taught to hide it or like shun away from it, but I didn't, I kind of leaned into it. And it was shocking to find that people did embrace me and they loved me and they supported me when you thought like, oh, I'm gonna be weird and everyone's gonna hate it, but they didn't. And it was actually really rewarding to like step out of my shell and kind of just be me. And so there's a quote that I've always loved, and it's that people may hate you for being different, but deep down they wish that they had the courage to do the same. And that is the damn truth, because anytime someone's a bully, there's always something going on with them, and that might be why they're bringing something to you. So if you can just keep your head above that and keep going, it really does work out. So it kept me striving for my goals, and I knew that I was going to do something bigger than this, and I knew that I was going to do something that made me happy. So 1 week after senior year, I packed up my crappy little car full of all my art supplies, and I drove down to LA, and I went to the Fashion Institute. I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 people, sleeping in a twin bed with another twin bed next to me with my roommate. On my only 2 days off of school, I worked 12-hour shifts at a clothing store, and I ate Subway sandwiches every single day because I was broke. But that kind of hustle and determination is what propelled me to currently where I am today. And after 1 year working in the fashion industry, I was like, I need something more social. So I went and got a job at MAC in Los Angeles. And at the time, MAC was like the coolest place. It was the coolest makeup, and it was the only place you could really like do makeup for a living. And people weren't really as into makeup as they kind of are now. Like, God bless Euphoria, because people wear rhinestones in public, and it's a savior for me now. And I didn't know that this was like gonna be my career. And it's like, little did I know that that would soon like hone my talent and then change my life forever. So I finally graduated college and I was ready to pack my bags. I moved to New York and I wanted to give it a try. And I went straight to a MAC counter and was like, hey, I know what I'm doing, hire me. Luckily got hired because I was starving, and rent in New York is not cheap at all. So after about 6 years with MAC, I knew that I wanted more and I knew that I could do more. So I started testing with photographers. I called everyone that I knew that even owned a camera and just started working for free and doing anything I could. And then one day I got a call. There were these 2 new girls with Atlantic Records. They paid me $50. I did their makeup for a magazine. And it turns out it was like Hana Pop, and I don't care, I love it, blew up. So they took me with them on the road, and it was like my first big celebrity job, and I went all over the world with them. They led me into working with Charlie XCX. She was a new artist and was about to release a song called Fancy with Iggy Azalea. So that hadn't gone anywhere. And then that blew up. So I traveled to China, to Bali. I've been all over the world with her. And that's kind of how everything happened. It just snowballed. And I realized that the hustle and extreme hard work, it's still prevalent in my job today. So some people choose an education path. I kind of chose the streets and the hustle and the hard work and determination to kind of find the next thing and the next job. So eventually Charlie led me to Dua Lipa, and then we met at a party, and then little hustler Colby came out, and I was like, hey, I should do your makeup sometime. And then, you know, cut to a couple months later, I'm on private jets with Dua Lipa, so that worked out. And then it slowly became, I became like the go-to makeup artist for all the top musicians that we listen to now. So Tovlo, Zara Larsson, Billie Eilish, and I even did a Spice Girl, if you know what a Spice Girl is. That was my mecca. I finally got to do a Spice Girl. And the funny thing about all this is that the world is so big, and there is a place for you and for everyone. And don't let your current surroundings or your current friend group or anything like that pretend or sabotage you from your true potential. Because if I listened to other things that people said or what they treated me or teased me for, I'd probably still just be a fan of Billie Eilish and not actually doing her makeup. So keep going. Thanks, guys.
Okay, hopefully I won't butcher this one. Now we have Mr. Calabresi, who is the Director of Student Services for the Brentwood Union Elementary School District. He is class of 1989. So he actually has a few students that have gone through high school. He got his Bachelor of Science at CSU Stanislaus, his Master's at Cal State East Bay. What a nice picture of you. His favorite TV shows when he was in high school was The Cosby Show, Roseanne, and Cheers. And of course, his favorite song when he was in high school, most popular song, was Miss You Much by Janet Jackson. And there's a picture of Mr. Calabresi doing what he does best, and that's working with students in Brentwood. Life is about relationships and connecting with others. Ask yourself who can add value to today as you go about your life. And his favorite quote, if there is no hope in the future, there is no power in the present. J. Maxwell. Freedom students, Mr. Chris Calabresi.
I don't know that I can beat that story, Colby. That was really, really amazing. My favorite song in high school was Def Leppard, anything from Def Leppard, or Welcome to the Jungle, White Guns N' Roses, just for the record. I love Janet Jackson, but just want to set that story straight. That was funny. You were supposed to laugh. I want to get to know my audience a little bit because I really can't beat Colby's story. I'm just curious, how many of you are seniors? Cool. Juniors? Sophomores? Freshmen? Freshmen have hope. You'll be there someday, okay? And how many of you know what you want to do when you graduate? Wow, that's awesome. That's like a third of you. Cool. How many of you have no idea? Hey, thanks for being honest. Yeah, that's cool. So how many of you think you know what you're going to do, but you're not quite sure, you're just not committed yet? That's cool. All right. That was me. I was supposed to be a stock. First off, I do want to thank Mr. Bolton for hosting us today and taking us around and just a phenomenal job. And I want to thank the principal too, and the young ladies that gave us a tour. That was awesome. Freedom was an orchard when I was a kid growing up out here. And also you should be thanking your teachers for bringing you here today so that you didn't have to do an assignment or classwork. Okay? Thank you. Good clap. What's my story? That's what we're supposed to tell you about today. And my question is, what's your story? Because you're writing your story, and where you're sitting, well, let me back up. When I sat where you sat, I thought I knew my story. I thought I knew what I was going to do. I was going to be a stockbroker. I was going to move in with my aunt and uncle in Staten Island, New York. I was eventually going to hopefully get to Flatbush and live in New York. See, we had something common, Cole. He's there, no, not. I love New York. I love New York. And I couldn't wait to make money on the stock market. I was supposed to make my first million by 25. I told that to all my friends my senior year. I had crappy grades. C's, B's, and a couple D's. The one A was in PE. True story. True story. I got a B in social studies. I like history. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I did, but I didn't realize I was writing my own story. I was more concerned about what others thought about my hopes and dreams and how I was going to get to my hopes and dreams. You probably can relate to that. When I was sitting where you were sitting with my buddies, Jose, Brian, and Tim, they paid me to say their names today, by the way. I didn't know I was going to be a history teacher. I didn't know I was going to be an elementary school principal. I didn't know I was going to become a director of student services and be in charge of the health and safety of 9,300 students. I had no interest in teaching. In fact, I remember arguing with my English teacher saying, why would you ever get a liberal arts degree and become an English teacher? We barely pay attention to you, and none of us get excited when you say, here's an essay to write. And yet she made me write. She's the only teacher actually that made me write. And then I got to college and I went, oh crap, I got to write essays. And I relied on what Mrs. Pedrati taught me. She's had heritage to this day. There is someone who still teaches in the district that I had, besides Gooch. Gooch, right? Everyone knows Gooch. So eventually I became an elementary school principal. Let me back up. I became a history teacher at Liberty. I taught there for 7 years. I loved it. I loved teaching. And I got challenged by a friend of mine. I was upset about some stuff that was happening. He said, why don't you try to become the principal? And I said, fine, I will. And so I went to school and got my credential to become a principal and eventually my master's degree. I actually graduated from my master's degree a week after my second son was born. And so I have a picture of holding him. It's a real special moment for me. Because it was a modeling to him and my other son that I could graduate college, that they could do it too. I was also first generation to go to college. There was no scholarships. I didn't have good grades to get scholarships. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college. In fact, my dad called me my second year in college and said, you need to come home. We can't help you pay for college. They were helping pay for my dorm. I said, I'm not leaving, Dad. I'm going to figure this out. So I operated backhoe. I moved pipe. I worked for farms. I did everything I could. I cut rebar. I pulled nails out of boards. I did everything I could to pay for college. And I graduated from college, actually. My point is that don't let those types of things get in your way, is my point. Hold on to that hope. Have hope. Hope's not a strategy, but it's an important ingredient because it gives you motivation to get to tomorrow when you're broke and living in a room, 2-bedroom apartment with 4 different people, right? And eating the Subway every day. I did not eat Subway every day. How many of you are Italian? Just curious. Anyone Italian? Yeah, all right. So my mom always cooks for 10 people, even though there was only 2 people in the house. Can you relate to that? Yeah. So I would come home on the weekends from college, and my mom would always have this giant bowl of pasta, and I would fill up all these Tupperware containers and take it back to where I was living at college. And then all of a sudden I had all these best friends because they wanted a home cooked meal. They'd be peanut butter jelly and top ramen all week. So so I ate mom's pasta all week long. It was a good deal. My mom is paying me to say that too when she's going to be here today at Liberty High School. She's 83 years old. She has no idea what the internet is, so it'll be fun. Over time, I learned that I shouldn't compare myself to others. I don't have to be perfect. I just need to be authentic. I need to be the true me. And I think you heard that from all 3 of us here today. And for me, teaching history was it was a joy. And your teachers do love it when you come back and visit, right? Like seeing Colby Hutt and Dr. Amaro was really, really cool, right? It's special to us because you guys make a difference in our lives. We're teaching you, but really you're teaching us, and I want you to know that. Brentwood became a special place to me, the place I could not wait to leave, the place I could not wait to get away from and go to New York became a special place to me. Through a series of events, I decided I wanted to become a teacher, and I said this to my dad. And my dad said, why don't you invest in people's lives instead of investing their money? And I was like, whoa, Dad, when did you become so smart? That's really deep for an old guy. And he's like, yeah, I know, you won't appreciate me as a philosopher till after I'm gone, and he's right. And that's another sad story I shouldn't tell. I'm going to tell it to you. So, July 28th of 1994, I became a teacher at Liberty High School. Really cool moment. I'm going to try not to cry. August 11th, my dad passed away, and August 13th, I got married. So my dad got to see me teach. He pats me on the head and says, "My son, the teacher." It's like the nicest thing he ever said to me, really. And it was like him hugging me and telling me he loved me, right? He was not a man that would express that very often. So that was really, really cool to me. Thank you. So I took in philosophy and I made it my own. And so I became a teacher and I loved it. And eventually became a middle school vice principal, an elementary vice principal. And then I became a principal of elementary school, Loma Vista Elementary School, which I saw one of my former students today. That was super cool. And then I was a principal out in Livermore. I wanted a job where I could be tall, and elementary school was perfect for me. That is funny, right? Kindergartners were like looking up at me and going, like, "Wow, you're huge." And I was like, "I know," right? So it's like me standing next to Mr. Volta. "Wow, you're huge." Brentwood, Oakley, Knights, and this whole East County is a special place. And for people that can grow up on a farm or a little area and to be able to go out and do the things that we're seeing from the graduate distinction is really awesome. And someday you'll be up here too. And that's my story to you. We're not without our issues in East County. We have homelessness, we have people in poverty, we have divisive issues that affect us. And my hope is that you solve those problems someday for the next generation, and that you make a difference, that adding value to others. I'm going to leave you with this quote, and it's my favorite quote from Cesar Chavez. "We cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about progress and prosperity for our community. Our ambition must be broad enough to include the aspiration and needs of others." So as you're writing your story, make sure you include others in writing that story, and bring community and build relationships. Thank you.
Now we can open up the questions. Mr. Lamar, will you give me a hand here? That or I jump down, which would scare her. At this time, we have a few minutes for questions. If you want to ask any of our graduates of distinction any questions. Just raise your hand. There's one with this book, that book.
English and
Well, I have two questions, one for Colby and one for, oh my gosh, I always forgot. Alicia. Okay, so Colby, since I was your French teacher, did you get to meet any French-speaking celebrities or no?
Did I get, sorry, one more time?
Any French-speaking celebrities? Since you,
I don't think I have any French-speaking celebrities, but I have done makeup in Paris like 12 times.
Ooh!
So, yeah. I definitely hit up the streets of Paris many times, yeah.
And then my second question, very quick, which is totally kind of stupid. In '94, the high school where I taught at Northgate, we followed the O.J. Simpson thing, and right now I'm following Johnny Depp for some reason. And I was wondering, what do you think of this? And I wanted to know what kind of law do you do, and what do you think of this? Quickly, 30 seconds. Johnny Depp, what's the story?
Okay.
It's too much for me.
Yeah, that's okay. So I do civil litigation, so I defend companies and businesses when they get sued for various things. Anything from sexual harassment to any kind of negligence that might have happened. Someone passes away as a result of a failed product. I defend the companies. I guess defend the bad guys. I think it's a good thing. But as far as the Johnny Depp thing is concerned, what I always say about all of these trials, I mean, I had, the relationship of having a case that was literally all over the news. I was coming back to my office with thousands of messages on my voicemail from reporters wanting to hear about my balcony collapse case and what happened and how could you represent the company that built. And look, there is so much more to every lawsuit and every single headline that you see about any lawsuit that's going on that is ever told to any of us. And I remember being so frustrated, like this isn't even true, they're just bringing these things up. And as a lawyer, I know people sue other people for absolutely anything. You look at somebody the wrong way. I just read an article about a man was mad because his coworkers threw him a birthday party against his wishes, and it caused him severe stress, and a jury awarded him $450,000. I mean, I just think that's outrageous, right? So as far as Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, right? As far as Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are concerned, I think where there's smoke, there's fire. But I think that there was probably an effort to raise her social status by going after one of, a beloved film star. But I also think where there's smoke, there's fire. Justice for
my name is Umar, and I got questions for all of you. First for Colby, 2 questions. Who's your favorite singer or artist that you've done makeup for?
I mean, it's a little tough because no one messes with the makeup artist because I'll make you look like crap. So we tend to get along quite well, but I'd say my closest, I'm really, really, really close friends with Tovlo and Charlie XCX and Zara Larson, just because we've been working together since the very beginning. But then it's just so weird because I started doing Billie when she was 15. So she's 20 now, so it's I've known her her entire career. So you just have that close intimacy with almost every single person you work with, and I will not tell you who I hate the most, so.
Also, I want to ask, who's your favorite artist?
Let's say it one more time.
Who's your favorite artist, this person?
Just to listen to?
Yeah.
Queen Britney Spears, come on.
What's the weirdest case you've ever
The easiest?
No, what's the weirdest?
Weird. I probably can't talk about it here. Honestly. I have had some weird cases. I've represented doctors before where patients have said things like, I sued you because, so this was a dentist, and she had gotten crowns or veneers, I forget which one it was, and he told her that they looked nice, and she thought that she looked like a doofus, and so literally in the complaint it wrote that you lied to me when you said that I looked good and I looked like a doofus. And she's also the one that called me and said, I read on the internet that you're a super lawyer and I can't wait to beat you. And I was like, ma'am, you're not gonna beat me.
I want to ask, what's your favorite thing about teaching in elementary school?
Say that one more time.
What's your favorite thing about teaching?
My favorite thing about teaching is when my students got that aha moment and the light went off, or when they were teaching me something. That was really cool. In fact, I had a weird moment the other day in the car with my kids. I have 2 kids in college, and one's a student at Liberty, and my son shared with me that there was a molasses barrel that exploded in Boston, and all these people had died as a result of that, and I failed my students. I did not teach them about this. Apparently it happened in the 1800s. I had no idea. And so he taught me, and I was like, wow, here I was a USAP teacher for 4 years and taught for 7 years, and I had no idea. So I love those moments when my students taught me things.
So I got a question for him. What's his name again? Kobe. Okay, I just have one question for you. Where did you get those shoes?
They're Prada. The internet, baby.
Last question.
Mr. Colby, my question for you is, so out of all the actors you've done makeup for, have you been able to see any behind the scenes for movies or anything like that?
Well, I would say music videos, because I work mostly in music. So, but yes, behind the scenes of music videos, I'd say one of the craziest ones is it called Gone by Tovlo? It was the craziest thing. We filmed 5 days in Kiev, and they had her hang from a helicopter. They blew a car up. They flipped a car upside down, and we filmed on these crazy green screens with a treadmill in the water. So when you watch it, it's her walking on a train and then walking like in water and then walking through a field with sheep. So they green screened it, but then brought the elements that you would need to make the atmosphere in person. So she's like hopping on stones in water, but in person she was just on the ground in water, just doing this. But then when they put it all together with the wind and everything, it looked like she was really there. And that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, like behind the scenes. Green screen, man, it's all fake. Nothing's real.
Thank you, Falcons. You've been a great audience today. That concludes our program. We have 2 more high schools that we need to get to and do tours. You guys have been awesome. Thank you very much.